Hello and welcome to a new episode of Where No Pod Has Gone Before. I'm Julian.
Hi there, and I'm Titan.
And we are going to talk today about 1997's Contact, directed by Robert Zemeckis, based on a novel by Carl Sagan. And, this movie is about a woman who has a lifelong search for extraterrestrial life, pointing radio telescopes into the galaxy and listening for anything that she can hear, until one day she does find a signal, and the signal contains mysterious instructions. I think we can leave it there before our discussion. But I want to start with a question for you. So what if there were aliens is obviously the big question of all of science fiction, I would say.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it if you pull on that string, you can open yourself up to so much creativity. What do they look like? Well, how does their civilization function? How do we interact with them? What do their spaceships look like? All the kind of fun stuff of science fiction. But is it the greatest what if question of science altogether? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, okay.
Because of the implications in almost every area that you can imagine. Implications in biology, in physics, maybe they have more advanced knowledge and technology than us, implications in sociology and in philosophy and religion.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel, that question?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely up there. It's definitely one of the top questions. I would say it's actually a specific case of an even larger question. I would say the biggest question, the only question in science, really, at the end of the day, is why are we here? What is the point of all of this?
Right. Yeah.
What is this? What is the universe? And I think discovering whether or not there are other beings in the universe helps answer that question. So it is its own question in its own right. It does a whole lot of stuff, but I don't think it's the final question.
No. But, let's say tomorrow that the headlines all read that we found a civilization, not too far from here. That's pretty much what happens in this movie. But, the implications of the world and our daily lives, everything would change.
Everything would change. And I mean, if you think about the world at the moment, I think it would be an absolute disaster. I think it couldn't come at a worse time. I mean, can you just imagine?
Yeah, I'm going to get into that when we talk about the movie properly, like the mechanisms of government and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've read something before where, at the moment we still divide time into before and after Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a theory that time would be divided before and after contact. When you make contact, that will be the biggest moment in human history.
Oh, I mean, if it happened in our lifetime, like we would, obviously that's how we would define things. Like,
exactly.
Obviously, if you had kids who were born after contact,
they came. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you would talk to them about like what life was before and.
Was before we made contact. Yeah, exactly. So it would probably, it might not be the biggest question of science, but I would say it is maybe one of the biggest questions for humanity.
Yeah.
It's at least closer in time to us than the final question of why are we here. It is even conceivable that it might happen in our lifetime in one way or another. Maybe not an intelligent civilization necessarily, but the discovery of life would be the biggest event that's ever happened. Yeah.
But am I right in saying that there is a spacecraft on its way to a certain moon to go check this? Is it Europa?
Yes, the Europa Clipper, exactly. Yeah, it launched, I think it was last year sometime. And the whole idea of that, if I've got this right, I think, is that Europa is a moon that's got a subterranean ocean.
Yes.
Which is covered with a surface of ice, and it gives off these like jets of water vapor into the space around it, and that's why it's known as the Europa Clipper, because it's supposed to sort of clip right past the this moon and sample those jets of water to see if there are various organic compounds or signs of life or something. So yeah, that is a very exciting thing. I think it's still, it's all these things.
Years away.
It arrives in 10 years or something.
Yeah,
so we've got a while to wait. But I've got my name engraved on the microchip on that spacecraft. Apparently,
wow.
If what they tell us is true. But yeah. I mean, they can very easily tell you that that's a thing. I can't check it, but that's what they said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Contact, based on a novel by Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan, a hugely influential figure in popular science, I would say.
Yes,
like in the larger consciousness, public consciousness. I know him as a science communicator. Obviously, Cosmos.
Yes.
I watched huge chunks of that original show on YouTube.
Yes.
10 years ago, whatever it was. So that's my experience with him. But why don't you give us a little background on Mr. Sagan?
Yes, yeah. I mean, so you've pretty much said the main thing about him is that he was, I would say, an influential scientist of the 20th century, American astronomer and astrophysicist. And he was a real scientist. That's the distinction that makes him credible, I would say, is that he was an actual astronomer. He did make real contributions to science, but he was most famous for being sort of a public face of science in the late 20th century. And I think it was his ability as a storyteller and his ability to emotionally communicate things to an audience which is not scientifically literate, I suppose you could say, or scientifically advanced. That was his greatest strength. And yeah, you mentioned Cosmos, obviously, that original show. I think that was very influential for a lot of people at the time. It was the first time that many people get introduced to ideas like black holes and the scale of the universe and pulsars and all of those sort of things. Many people hadn't really heard of them at the time. And he made his name by being able to communicate those sort of ideas effectively. And then I think what was a very important contribution from him as well is his role in legitimizing SETI. So SETI being the Search for Extra-Terrestrial Intelligence. He was the first scientist to actually take it seriously as an actual scientific pursuit. Before then it was conspiracy theories and hoaxes and discovering UFOs in the middle of Nevada or whatever those things were. Whereas he was the first person to actually take it as a serious thing worth us investing time and energy and money into. And another famous person was Frank Drake, which he worked with, which I'll probably speak about a little bit later. But the two of them were very influential as well in sort of in the late 70s, I think. We sent out our first probes into the solar system, the Pioneer probe and the Voyager probe. And he was the one who convinced the people making these things on the Pioneer probe, they put on a plaque with various messages to anyone who might find this probe in the future. And on Voyager, they obviously put the golden record, which contained images and sounds of Earth this way. And he communicated this as an idea worth doing, even if it's ultimately fruitless. We're not expecting to actually get any results from it, but he captivated the public interest, I would say, by encouraging that sort of idea. And he also was around the time that the Arecibo telescope, which we will talk about as well, was first introduced, first constructed, and there was the first telescope ever to be used for SETI. They sent out a radio message hoping for an answer, or even if they weren't, but they also listened for answers with the telescope. A lot of the telescope's time was dedicated to that search. And yeah, obviously then he wrote this Contact book, which I think I'll speak about it. I think it is almost semi-autobiographical. in parts. I think it describes his own experience with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you can feel some of the I think the frustrations definitely came through to me watching the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I think a lot of it was sort of based on his own experience of the way people perceived the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then also just on a personal level for me, my name Titan was literally chosen by my parents from one of his famous books, The Pale Blue Dot. And they chose that name. They were looking in this book at various names, and they liked that name originally. And then they turned on the news, and at the time there was the Cassini-Huygens mission, which was being sent. It was another probe. It was being sent to Titan, and they thought, well, what's the coincidence of that? And I think so. He's quite an inspiration behind my name, which has always led to me being interested in astronomy originally, and then science, and ultimately science fiction. So you could kind of say that he is the reason I'm with you here today on this podcast. He's really been quite an influential, almost mythical figure in my journey towards science and science fiction.
Yeah, obviously a legend, and I think influencing people, also in ways that they don't realize that they have been, cast a very big shadow over this world. I mean, I want to bring up the Pale Blue Dot because that is one of the great kind of pieces of just that small paragraph that's out there is one of the great pieces of writing, and that expression of like cosmic insignificance, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Is also something that's very prevalent in this film, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, anyone listening who hasn't read that, I would highly recommend going and reading it and looking at the picture, because he puts it in a way which no one else could have put it that way. I mean, he really gets you to understand not only just the significance of us at the moment, but the significance of the entire history of humanity. It's not just present day us right now. It's everything that we have ever known exists only on this tiny little pale blue dot in a beam of sunlight.
Yeah, and like you said, that's also the way he was able to bring emotion into science in a way that I don't think anyone else has ever been able to do.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, no, not to that level. People have tried, but everyone, everyone jokes as well with Neil deGrasse Tyson that he's trying to be Carl Sagan. And I think
he was mentored. He was mentored by him, and obviously he took over his show.
Yeah.
So like
exactly, yeah. But it's it's like people. Every fiction writer since Tolkien is either emulating Tolkien or trying not to be Tolkien. And it's the same thing with Sagan. It's you're either trying to emulate him or you're trying to do something different to what he did. He really was the cornerstone of science communication in the modern world.
Yeah. So let's move into the movie proper. Contact is directed by Robert Zemeckis, dedicated to Carl Sagan. At the end, we see for Carl, who sadly passed away during production. He was a producer on the film, working closely, probably to look at the kind of scientific accuracy of everything.
To I didn't even know that.
Shepherd that through, I guess.
Yeah.
Sad that he wasn't there to see this come to fruition, because I really think that this is an underrated classic of the genre.
I can't even understand why I haven't watched it in so long. I was watching it and it took me like 5 hours to watch this movie, because I was pausing like every 20 seconds at the beginning, like, this is brilliant. I need to write things down. I need to talk about all of this, because it was fantastic. A really, really good movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in the conversation with the other, canonical classics that we think of. But, I think today we're going to try and make an argument that it should be.
I think so. I think it is because it is a little bit of a thinker. It's not. We've spoken last time, I think, about the lasers and the space battles and everything. You don't get too much of that in this film. There is a little bit, but a lot of it is. There is more science than fiction for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, and a lot of movies, people in rooms talking.
Yes.
That's a huge part of the drama.
Yeah.
So, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who has his sci-fi credentials already from the Back to the Future trilogy.
Of course it was. I don't know if I've mentioned this actually on this podcast, but there have been several movies where I watch it and I'm not expecting a lot. And then at the end it says, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Of course it was. That's why, of course.
And when you look back on his career, you see someone who has always been kind of working on the front lines of special effects, I would say. So Back to the Future, quite special effects driven, but he does Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a 2D animation live action hybrid. He has Forrest Gump, which is, inserting Tom Hanks into, huge parts of history.
Right. Yes.
I think there's the Polar Express. It's really uncanny animation.
Yes. Yeah.
And then last year he did a film called Here, which is very weird. It's a single camera setup of one location through eons, basically, of all the people who live there. And most of it is, a living room of a house following a family. And it's, it's de-aged Tom Hanks and Robin Wright from Forrest Gump. But, so he is someone who is drawn to special effects and, working on the cutting edge, I would say. This movie doesn't have a lot of that, but you see very strong glimpses of it towards the end.
Yes, I would say so, yeah.
But yeah, so we start with the big special effects shots of camera pulling back through the entire universe, I guess, from Earth. As these signals, you hear these broadcasts, famous moments of history. We get further and further back into history, which is a really nice expression of how, time and, transmissions travel and how that...
I think it's a really good way of explaining it without explaining it, because when it first comes on, you're like, what's going on? There's just this noise in the background. Like, this is horrible. And as it goes on, you pick up these little fragments of speeches, which you've heard, you know what they are. And it makes sense. I think anyone would understand it. They eventually you realize, okay, this is what they're trying to communicate.
Yeah. We're going from the Spice Girls all the way back to Hitler. That's the span we're working in. So we go, out and out further and further, and we get this huge scale of the universe, which is that's a Saganism from Cosmos.
Billions and billions.
Billions and billions. And we come out through the eye of a young girl. And I don't know if this is a Carl Sagan thing, but the idea of humanity being a way for the universe to experience itself. That's what that shot is. It's a very nice way
exactly. The entire universe encapsulated in one individual, essentially.
Yeah. And it's a great way to set up kind of, I guess, the emotional through line of the film. The search for meaning, as expressed through Ellie and then certain counterparts. But yeah, so it's a young girl and she's fascinated by technology and by space, and she has a father who is nurturing her interests. And we come into the present day in Arecibo. Where is Arecibo? Can you tell us?
Oh, yeah, Arecibo. So, Arecibo is, I think it's in Puerto Rico. Yes, exactly. It's in Puerto Rico. At the time, it was the largest single-dish radio telescope ever built. And because of its scale, most radio telescopes were steerable. You could point them where you want, whereas here they had to build it in a valley, a natural valley, and you point it by moving the secondary dish on top of it that's suspended above it.
Right. I'm looking at your background right now. It is a serious piece of kit.
Yeah, I know it is. I I have loved this telescope. I mean, I remember seeing it in a book when I was a kid and just thinking, whoa, what a cool thing. I mean, you've never seen something like that before.
Also, I believe, a filming location for GoldenEye, the James Bond film.
For James Bond, exactly. Yeah. Which, I mean, brings me to, if you're not familiar with Arecibo, it unfortunately collapsed a few years ago. I think it was 2020, which was extremely heartbroken. It's something I will grieve for the rest of my life. But I think it was the only way for such an iconic instrument to go out. They were just going to deconstruct it in a boring way. But it went out with as much impact as it has made on science and the public. And I remember when it went out, that's the first time I watched this movie, Contact, and also I watched GoldenEye. Those were sort of my tribute movies. Exactly, a double feature, Arecibo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Dr. Ellie Arroway arrives at Arecibo, and we learn through exposition that she is a brilliant, young, up-and-coming scientist who is, quote-unquote, wasting her career in SETI.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we have a scene where she's listening to certain frequencies, and there's I guess a false alarm.
Yeah, and I want to say something about that, because that's something which bugs me, but I also think is a fantastic storytelling device. It's kind of like tachyons, I suppose, because a radio astronomer does not listen to the telescope. If you put on headphones and listened to the signals, it would be complete nonsense. It would be like what you're hearing at the beginning of the film, where it's just noise. There's absolutely no ways that you could listen to the signals from a radio telescope and actually make any sense of it. But I read up about it, and Carl Sagan obviously was an astronomer. He knew this. So it has to be asked, did he do this on purpose? And it turns out he did. He did it. I think it's exactly what he did with everything, is he found a way to make it relatable. Because imagine if the movie was just her staring at a computer screen, right? That would not be interesting.
Data.
Exactly, and looking at data. I mean, it wouldn't be a good storytelling device. Whereas here she is listening to the universe, and she's got a sort of intuitive feel for it, which is far easier for people to relate to, even if it's not strictly accurate. I think it bugs me, because I'm like, well, that's definitely not how it's done. But I do think it was a fantastic narrative device to make her listen to the universe for people, other beings calling out into the darkness, just like she had been doing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it pays off wonderfully later, which we'll get to. So we have the next scene is our introduction to Palmer Joss, great character name, as played by Matthew McConaughey. Who comes across as this kind of hippie. He's doing research into science and technology, and it's
I would say he comes across as Matthew McConaughey, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He's a science and technology skeptic who, is coming from a negative point of view to begin with, and trying to get interviews. And his big interview white whale is one David Drumlin, who we're introduced to very quickly as someone who taught Dr. Arroway, but does not respect her choice of field and is an asshole. Like, completely.
He's instantly dislikable. I mean, I think I disliked him before he was even on the screen. It was something about what he said or whatever. I was like, okay, well, this guy's an asshole. Yeah.
And, but it's clear quite quickly that he knows how to play the game. And this is the thing that I think where Sagan's frustration is coming through. Where you have the politicking and the kind of mechanisms of policy and government and money that has to make all of this possible. So he's saying, we have an obligation to deliver science and technology that benefits the taxpayers, the people who are paying for this. And, pure research is not something
it's not tenable. Just about the science. You have to actually produce something in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't help thinking about Crick and Watson with Rosalind Franklin, where Rosalind Franklin, I mean, I'm not even 100% sure what it was that they did. I think they sequenced the genome or something. But Rosalind Franklin, female scientist, typical story where she was overlooked. She did most of the work. It was actually her discovery. I think one of them, either Crick or Watson, was sort of involved, but the other one was literally pretty much like Drumlin, where he's just the director. He's sort of in charge of the whole project.
Moving the pieces around. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's Crick and Watson. I mean, that became a synonymous term. Everyone knows who they were. And Rosalind Franklin, female scientist who actually did all the work, was completely overlooked. So I couldn't help thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's
lot,
also
because I think it does happen a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something that is in this film. It kind of, she's constantly being talked over, and people are taking her spotlight, and it's not something that's like, shoved in our faces or foregrounded within the film, but there is definitely an element of that.
It definitely happens, yeah, and there's a sort of sense of helplessness. She doesn't really. She can't really fight back. There's not much she can do because it just happens without her even realizing. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, as the bells go.
It's great atmosphere, I would say.
Yeah. So they form a connection, and it becomes quickly clear that they are shutting down her research at Arecibo.
Yes.
And I can't tell if it's before or after, but we have the amazing scene where her father passes away.
Yes, I knew I was banking on you bringing this up because I know exactly
the
what you're talking about.
iconic shot.
My God.
Do you want to take a guess as to how they did that?
I have absolutely no idea because, I mean, I think I've seen a video of it on Instagram or whatever at some stage, and I'd forgotten which movie it was from, and then suddenly it happened, and it took me by surprise, like I'd never seen it before.
It is surprising to see it in this film because this is quite a kind of stately, prestige drama, static cameras.
And it comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's just an ordinary scene, and then suddenly,
but basically, it's two shots stitched together. That's the only way you can do it. And I think there's a body double with a hand coming in front.
Okay. But I mean, it's one. If it's just started with her running down the hallway, and then it turns out it's in a mirror. But I mean, it followed her from like the kitchen.
Yeah,
she ran all the way up it was unbelievable shot.
So the research is shut down, and now her only hope is to get money, private funding for time at the Very Large Array in New Mexico, which she successfully does. She's been going to boardrooms and going to meetings for 13 months, and her final chance, she makes a big grandstanding speech, and then the guy watching from the camera likes her mojo, I guess, and grants the money. And so now we're at the Very Large Array, which first I have to say is just a great name. I love a literal
it's a typical name that only a scientist can come up with. Well, what is this? No,
lots of telescopes.
Lots of telescopes. It's quite a large array, this, hey? What should we call it?
Very large, even.
No, and you see, this is also when I think this is definitely, I mentioned how the story is semi-autobiographical, because both Arecibo and the Very Large Array have been very involved in SETI. And it was, I think Sagan was very involved, especially with Arecibo, in getting them to use at least some of the telescope time towards Arecibo. And I mean, for many years, I think that's how I first learned about Arecibo as well, is that for many years, it was often, whenever you talked about SETI or aliens or whatever, there was a picture of Arecibo. And I was a long-time user as well of a project called SETI at Home, which allowed you to download packets of data from the Arecibo telescope. And instead of a screensaver when your laptop is idle, it processes these packets of data for Arecibo and for SETI, because they can't justify using supercomputer time, for example. So I love that idea that in its spare time, my laptop was looking for aliens, and it was always coming.
Imagine if it was you.
Yeah, I was always waiting. Sometimes there would be like a little flag or something, and I'm like, "Ooh, what's this?" But yeah, so Arecibo and the VLA have both been used for SETI, and I think the VLA still continues to be used for it sometimes. But Sagan and many other people are constantly fighting for it because, especially with now Arecibo gone, a lot of people say, okay, well, why are we going to do this? We did this for 40 years and we turned up nothing. Arecibo, we never found. We sent data packets to hundreds of people, thousands of people across the world. I think SETI at home was the largest computation ever performed at the time.
Wow.
So, and you say, okay, but we spent all this effort, and then what? So we've done it for 40 years. Good job. Sorry it didn't work out. And so SETI is constantly under threat. It's something that scientists are constantly trying to keep the public interested about. And I think that whole scene with going between Arecibo and getting the whole project shut down and everything, I think that was definitely a demonstration of Sagan's own frustrations with the idea, because he wanted it to be something which is continuously done. You have to do this for hundreds of years maybe before you actually get a result. You can't expect something over 40 years. Oh, you put in the money and now you're going to get a result. The story is a hopeful outlook on that, but that's not actually how it's going to happen in reality. So yeah, I think this was definitely Sagan preaching for some understanding.
Yeah, I mean, there's also some, movie mechanics going on. We've had a failure, a false positive.
Yes,
they had a project to shut down. Now they've only got 3 months of time left before they get kicked out of the VLA. And sorry, I just want to bring up one thing. When she's sitting there and she taps some keys away on her laptop, and these enormous telescopes are moving behind her, that is a serious, that is a power fantasy. I gotta go do that.
I would love for that to be true. Yeah, because I mean, and these things make noise and they move in real time. And it's like the headphones thing. I wish that as a radio astronomer you could sit there on this classic car in the field listening to the signals, but unfortunately it's a little sunset. Bit more. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more boring in reality normally, but it certainly makes it romantic.
Yeah, but that leads us into the big scene where she hears this a wonderful piece of sound design, this kind of metallic, rhythmic, pulsing noise. Yeah. And oh my God, this is it. And it's a thrilling scene where, technical jargon is getting thrown around and people are punching away on computers and they're yelling into walkie-talkies and the camera is swinging around the room.
It's an action scene, essentially. I mean,
it's
you're
as
excited
dynamic as
watching
one.
it. Yeah.
And they settle on this is an intelligent signal. Yeah. This is coming from an intelligent source. Because I think that's when they realize the prime numbers in this first scene.
Yes.
Yeah, they realize that the signal is being sent in prime numbers between 2 and 101, I think is the sequence. Yeah. And then we have the next day, the helicopters are here. You immediately know this is government.
I want to say something about that signal though, because there was also a great line from Palmer Joss, which I wonder if this was by design or not, because I can't help but think it was. He asked her, I think this was still when they were back at Arecibo, he said, "What research are you doing?" And she said, "SETI." And he said, "Oh, SETI, wow." And that reminded me immediately of the most famous SETI candidate signal is known as the WOW signal, because the astronomer who discovered it, he was still, they still did things by hand. They looked at printed out sheets of signals. And when he saw the signal, he circled it in red and he wrote, "Wow." on the.
I think I have seen a scan of this.
Yeah, and because it was exactly the type of signal that you are expecting in SETI. So that's the thing is, you get lots of radio signals from space, obviously, and so you have to come up with what would an intelligence signal look like, because obviously whoever sends it knows that there's a lot of noise out there. So you have to make a signal which is noticeable amongst all that noise. And your first thought would, of course, be to make a repeating signal like she initially got, where it's just a constant pulse.
Yeah.
But there was an instance, one of my favorite contemporary scientists, her name is Jocelyn Bell Bernal. She was a person who first discovered pulsars. And when she first discovered them, they were nicknamed LGM, which is Little Green Men. I think they said that in the movie at some stage, even, because
that's what
they
she's
said,
searching for.
Exactly. And when she discovered these in real life, she thought, well, these look like aliens, don't they? And I think she did get some ridicule and stuff about that as well. And it turned out that those are pulsars, and that there is actually a natural phenomenon that gives out something which you would think is artificial. And so we now know from that you need something more like the wow signal, which is a very narrow frequency and it's a little bit more structured, something like prime numbers.
Yeah.
You would need to have something a lot more noticeable than just a repeating signal. The problem with the wow signal is, of course, that I think it was only for 70 seconds or something, and it has never, ever happened ever again. Whereas this signal continued, and then they sent schematics and all sorts of stuff at some stage.
And the Australians also found it on the other side.
Exactly. So this was in real life, we got exactly the signal that they originally got, where it's something a little bit more complex. It's something definitely, it looks like it's been designed to stand out. And we've never received a signal like that ever again, which makes it all the more intriguing, of course.
God, that's so exciting. Considering a career change.
Yeah, exactly.
So the government shows up. The suits are here to take over to protect American interests.
Yeah,
but they are able to. One of the people working with SETI hears harmonics, I think it was, in the signal, and they are able to pull it out, and then they find this distorted image. And genuinely watching this, I've seen this film before, obviously, and I didn't remember the Hitler thing. And I was
I also did.
I was watching funny. And I was watching. I was like, is that a swastika? No, it's not. Moving on, and then it comes up, and then it's Hitler opening the 36 games, which we are told is then the first signal powerful enough to reach into outer space.
Yes.
And so obviously the aliens using that to reply.
And I mean, the Americans in their suits, they freaked out. Hey?
Yeah, it's the thing. The aliens like this guy.
It could have possibly been, yeah.
So I think we can move quickly through the kind of political and kind of governmental mechanics of what follows for a large portion. So they decipher the signal and they find the schematics for the machine, as they call it, and eventually settle on, well, we are going to build it and we are going to send someone through. This is we infer strongly that this is a transportation device.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of frustrating moments with Drumlin kind of stealing Dr. Arroway's thunder. But I do think
when he straight up just says like, "Oh, please go to the next slide," as if he was there for the whole thing.
I mean, that stuff is just gross and unacceptable. But I think there is a part of it where it's like he knows that he has to do what he has to do to get this working, because Arroway is probably too naive in this world of politics and men in suits to get it over the line. I think there is a part of that.
Absolutely. You do need someone to handle that world, because a scientist is not necessarily capable of that. They're more capable of science, but the way he does it is obviously disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I use a social media called Letterboxd to track movies and stuff. I don't know if you know it.
You've mentioned it to me before, yeah.
And there's someone I follow, I forgot who it was, but they wrote as a comment on this film, how does she get through the whole film without punching anyone? I think it's just like,
no, absolutely.
I know some people in my life who would not have the grace that she has in those situations.
No, I would have completely lost it with that guy in several meetings and occasions.
But they obviously with the schematics they need a primer, or whatever, and magically turns up old billionaire benefactor John Hurt, which for me this is
John Hurt, yes,
absolute legend. But this is the clumsiest. This is a silly part of the film for me. The kind of I've been watching you your whole life.
Yeah.
I've chosen you for this.
Yeah, you've been selected.
Kooky old billionaire.
Yeah, you thought no one was listening when you were sending out all those messages, but you attracted my attention.
But so the machine is being constructed now, and now we have a selection process for Earth's representative to go through. And Dr. Arroway is one of the leading candidates, given that she discovered the signal originally, and obviously, she says that you need someone who's fluent in the language of the universe, which is science, to go. And obviously that's one of her strengths. But let's open the can of worms of religion now.
All right then.
So she is rejected by her lover, essentially, for her beliefs. 95% of the world, according to the movie, believes in believes in a supreme being. So why should we send someone who does not believe in that to represent us? So that is a kind of there is a logic to that, but
there is a logic. But I mean, I think if someone were to actually ask something like that in a real setting of that sort of caliber, I don't think it would be considered so seriously, or it would be considered unprofessional, even, I think.
I mean, I was thinking because of the global makeup of the selection committee. Not everyone there is Christian, right? They're going to be Hindu people, and they're going to have Muslim people.
A secular person would actually be better, would be more representative, I would say.
Of course.
Because now you're having a Christian representative going out and meeting them. Well, what's that going to achieve?
Yeah. Only looking out for Christian interests.
Yeah.
But, there's a lovely thread. You spoke about science's big question, or just our big question in general, is why are we here? So it's a search for meaning. And I think that the two sides of the coin of Dr. Arroway and Father Joss are a great kind of expression of that.
Yes.
They are essentially looking for the same thing. As he would say, I would disagree with that.
Absolutely.
But there is a lovely character dynamic there.
Yes, and it wasn't. It's because I mean I think that dynamic has been done elsewhere, but it's often very sort of conflicted. They're often very much at each other's throats, and very much disagreeing on everything. Whereas here, they were a little bit closer in terms of what they actually wanted, and it was more about just exploring the different approach to it. I would say.
Yeah. And, so because of this, Drumlin, who, again, he plays the game.
He plays them, absolutely.
is selected, and we have the first test of the machine, which is a fun scene. I think we, as sci-fi fans, we love a control room seen people on communications talking about
absolutely
different systems are go, dynamics. We're a go, mechanical. We're a go, electrical. We're go.
Yeah,
that stuff is all just it's bulletproof. It's never not going to work.
Exactly. You can spend as much time as you want on that. Thank you very much.
But this is brought down by a religious fanatic suicide bombing, which is something that feels very predictive of our current state of affairs.
Yes. Yeah.
The different dissenting voices, the speed with which we can go to violence nowadays.
Yes. Yeah. And where something which is not real, like, because, they kept talking about, the religious implications and everything. What they actually mean is that if this all works out, their religion's going to be proven wrong.
And that's what they're terrified about. Yeah.
Yeah. They are being defensive. There's no religious implications. There's a threat to religion, and none of them ever really recognize that. They just defend against it without actually recognizing what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, and it's a deep it's a deep fear within them. That's something that they've dedicated all their lives to.
Yeah,
is going to be proven false.
Yeah, but I must say as well, the safety parameters of the distance to that machine were simply not acceptable. I mean, I know it's not a rocket or anything, but you cannot have the fact that it blows up and it actually reaches the control room. I couldn't even believe that. I was like, this would never. I would not have signed off on this.
But also the fact that they're building something that they don't know what it does.
Like, exactly.
What if it
you
sends
should
out a
be in a
shockwave?
different country. Yeah, I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. So the everything's gone to shit now, and then again magically John Hurt turns up on satellite comlink from a Russian space station.
Yeah, he's just on Mir. I'm like, well, okay.
And he's like, come over. Let me show you with the worst camera ever. We've built another machine secretly.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that the Soviet Union was corrupt and all, but wow, this guy must have had shitloads of money to just get a room on the space station. Like, damn.
To extend his life by a few months or whatever it was. So, and because it's his money, money is power, he gets to choose who goes. So Arroway is now the candidates, and she's going. I
definitely suspected already then, because I'd forgotten how the whole movie pans out. I definitely suspected already then. I was like, oh, was Haddon behind something here? Was he actually the one who blew up this machine or something? Because he wanted her to be the candidate. So I think it was quite a good setup, because it doesn't come as such a surprise towards the end when they start suggesting that as a possibility.
Yeah. So now we're in Hokkaido, Japan, and we're very quickly moving into launch.
Yeah.
And there's some nice kind of Apollo 11, any movie dealing with Apollo. They have the astronauts walking across the gantry, I guess it would be called.
Yes.
The elevator doors are opened, and oh my God, and they look down, and it's a great height, and they walk into the pod.
Great. It does feel real. It's still believable, even though the timeline is like a little bit impossible, and like, oh, can you really build this all from schematics and whatever? But it does still feel like it could potentially be real.
Yeah, I mean, it assumes a lot about the resources that a given planet would have.
Typical American move as well, I must say. Honestly, like, oh, we'll collaborate with everyone internationally, but let's also build a secret machine.
Yeah. So we can quickly move through the launch sequence. It's a big thrilling thing. Is it going wrong? No, it doesn't go wrong, and people don't really know what's happening. And the pod drops, and she goes through the time vortex from Doctor Who, basically. I mean, that's exactly what it looked
that's
like.
exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. She goes through a series of wormholes that we found out have been constructed. It's a it's a transit system left behind from some civilization. And she goes through and she sees all these fun, space sites. It's all good, whiz bang pop special effects, sci-fi, good stuff. Until she ends up on this very ethereal, uncanny beach, modeled from her own memories, we find out. So that's Pensacola, Florida. But we have a beautiful space vista in the sky.
Yeah, I do like the aesthetic of it because it almost looks real, but at the same time, it's definitely not. It's sort of like a dream sequence almost.
I mean, and it is. She does reach out and kind of touches the boundary of it. So there's obviously it is like it's the holodeck kind of from Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, she doesn't, and she actually doesn't move. If you go back and look at the scene, she doesn't move from her spot, implying that she is within a contained space.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But the waves are moving backwards, and so the opposite direction, and so everything is kind of uncanny. I like the idea that aliens can kind of pull that out, but they don't get it exactly right.
It's sort of it's constructed from her memories, exactly. And I don't think she didn't necessarily go there. She just had this idea of it. So they're working with the best material that they've got.
And something to put her at ease.
Yes. Yeah. No, I like it very much.
And one of the aliens shows up in the form of her late father, which is really a beautiful, touching scene. And this alien just explains the way everything works, basically. So there's a transit system left behind, and you need to come to us. So obviously they have a prime directive.
Yes.
And this is the way it's been done for billions of years.
But I also like it's similar to 2001: A Space Odyssey, where you're expecting them to come up with some sort of exotic alien form, but they and that's sort of often when it would fall apart in a movie like that, when you're like, oh, okay, now you're just making octopus people with 8 eyes and whatever. But instead of doing that, they find a way to avoid speculating on something which is not really worth speculating about. I like that approach a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's never about what do they look like. It's about who are we?
They there? And and exactly.
Yeah. And Ellie, after this experience, comes back, and we find out it's been instantaneous. So you fall straight through the spinning rings, and it's kind of energy sphere, which inevitably leads to skepticism. As to whether she had that experience or not, because there is literally no evidence for it. Excuse me. And that opens up an opportunity for Mr. Kitts, the National Security Advisor, to step down and make this big grandstanding political. He takes an opportunity to get his name in the papers, basically.
Exactly, to advance his own career.
Exactly. Which, again, is something that feels very, very realistic about 2026 politicians.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that happening. It's more believable than anything else.
Just having no kind of defined moral compass, doing everything to advance their own careers.
Here you are standing on a threshold for humanity and history, and you're interested about your political career.
Yeah. And as we find out, he does harbor that little bit of doubt, because he does know about the 18 hours of recorded static that we find out.
Exactly. So it's almost, he knows what he's doing. He knows that he could have helped, but he's decided to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, and this opens up another angle on the question of faith, because she's asking the whole world to believe her on her word with nothing to go for it. This is we say this all the time about religion. You got to give me some evidence.
Yeah.
If you show us evidence, we're going to believe you, but you're not showing anything, so we don't. And it kind of flips that onto the person who would say that.
Yeah, but they're very quick to say, okay, well, you were doubting our faith, so we're doubting yours now. They never turn that back on themselves, that, oh, now we are asking for evidence instead of just faith, so maybe we were wrong as well,
Yeah. So she's let out of Congress after testifying by Father Joss, and she finds this whole enormous crowd of support for her, people who believe her. She sees a young girl, so there's obviously like an element of like inspiration, I guess, there. And she settles back at a very large rate. She's working with SETI again, and she's doing school tours. Trying to get people into into her career, I guess. And I think we find her in a place of peace at the end of the film. Yeah, I mean, that's a run through of Contact. Do you have anything to say about it beyond the big plot points?
I mean, there was something which they obviously mentioned a few times, Occam's razor, which they sort of explain in the film well enough, I suppose, where it's essentially the simplest answer is the correct one. And whether I suppose it was probably done in a way to try and show the inconsistencies of the characters, but it was definitely applied incorrectly in that last trial, where the guy argues that what's more simple, an elaborate conspiracy theory and a hoax, or an actual signal from an alien? And the answer to that is clear. An actual signal from an alien is the more simple. If you're going to use Occam's razor, the answer is very clearly that is the more simple answer.
The conspiracy, as he describes it, is nuts.
Exactly, it's ridiculous.
Nuts. That's someone
because he's
could
suggesting
do that.
The entire thing. I mean, there's a satellite and everything, and I mean, so that's why it might have been done intentionally to show how people can flip the script on you and use your own arguments against you. But whatever it was, I mean, that was a completely misused a misuse of Occam's razor.
But are we surprised that character misused it?
Absolutely not. Exactly. No. So it's quite representative, I would say.
Yeah. I wanted to point out another Saganism. I think it's in the final scene that she picks up some sand where she's sitting.
Yes.
And that's straight out of Cosmos. With Carl Sagan saying that there are more stars in our night sky than in a handful of sand.
Yeah. I think that's one of the billions and billions thing where
I'm sure you can find a supercut of him saying billions and billions.
Billions and billions.
Yeah. I have a couple of comments just about the larger landscape of movies and movies like this. It's a bit of a cliche in the 2020s to say this about movies in the 90s and stuff, but they really don't make them like this anymore.
Oh no, they absolutely don't.
I mean, this is a mid-budget movie for adults. With movie stars, proper movie stars. And it has special effects and everything, but it has proper themes and adult characters and adults.
No, you're absolutely right, and interesting that as well that you say mid-budget, because these days it's normally like you can only justify making a movie if it's going to be an absolute blockbuster, and then you have to spend the Earth.
It's you only get like the
Yeah.
$200 million Marvel movies type,
Yeah.
or you get a $1 million horror movie.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no space for this kind of movie, that would cost 60 million to make and gross 400 or whatever.
Yeah.
They simply don't exist. And I also thought that if they wanted to make this today, this would absolutely be an 8-part Prime Video miniseries. I mean, you can even see the distinct episodes and how they would be cut up.
Yeah, you're right.
But also a word for Jodie Foster. Already at this point, twice 2-time Academy Award winner.
Okay.
Just one of the greats. I think she is just absolutely magnificent in this film.
No, you forget that you're watching an actor.
Yeah, I mean,
you completely believe that she is the character that she's playing.
Yeah, and everything, the whole thing, especially the wormhole stuff, hinges on her ability to sell it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, to sell that whole experience. So, yeah, like I said, just one of the greats, Jodie Foster.
Completely agree. Yeah, completely agree. And when you're mentioning wormholes as well, that it reminded me of something. I love the line where she said they should have sent a poet. Because many people have said that about things before, especially like the moonwalkers. They were all engineers and pilots, and they didn't have the ability to fully describe what they had seen in a way that connects emotionally with people. And I think the best example that we've had of a poet, in inverted commas, going into space and describing it in a way that no one else can is William Shatner. When he went up with Blue Origin. I don't know if you heard what he said when he came back down.
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I remember seeing it, and it was moving, and he does have being Captain Kirk, so anything to do with space, he does have the kind of ability to pull. He has that little prestige.
Yes, exactly.
That an ordinary person doesn't have.
It makes sense coming from him as well, because it's sort of on theme, and he is an actor, so he knows how to express it, and you could tell that he was profoundly affected by it. Even though he just goes up into not even low Earth orbit, just 100 k's up and then back down again. I think that was an example of them sending a poet into space and actually coming down and giving us something which no one else has really given us. I go and listen to that speech from him from time to time when I'm need a little bit of motivation.
Yeah. I mean, I also think there's an element of I guess space fatigue in the larger consciousness, where it's like, oh, whoop-de-doo, a rocket launch.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's routine now. Everyone knows it.
Yeah. So I think that the Shatner things like that still have a place and are very valuable.
Yeah.
And we go back to science communication,
Exactly.
It's such a big thing in driving, like it will come down to money. If people are interested, the money is going to come as well.
Exactly. That's why they were able to do so much in the 60s and stuff. Obviously, there was the whole Cold War influence as well, but it was because people were captivated by it as well. They were happy that their government was spending so much money on what they considered to be worthwhile and interesting and captivating.
I mean, and as we see from one of our shared favorite shows, For All Mankind, this stuff, might seem like a waste, but it actually does trickle down into
if you constantly make an effort into it, you do get results. Not in the big return on investment as you might want, but it does contribute eventually.
Yeah, I mean, even Formula One, that constant drive to be better and to eke out a tenth of a second, it finds its way into consumer cars.
Absolutely,
like all that technology finds its way down.
Yeah,
just from a drive to beat your your opponent.
Yeah.
So, well, let's get to the big question then.
Hmm.
Are there aliens out there? That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the one. I mean, so I think obviously in terms of SETI as well, it's very specific in terms of what it defines itself to be. It says search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So it is definitely looking for a civilization, a type of alien which their existence is already taken for granted. And so that's my opinion, is that there, if the question is there life? Absolutely. I don't think there is any possible way that any logic can explain that there is not life.
It's just
somewhere
it's
out
just
there.
simple math, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, it's just even when you think of civilizations, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Drake equation, which was talked about, which was formulated by Frank Drake, who was a colleague of Sagan, and it's not quite so much a real equation; it's more of a thinking tool. It takes all the different numbers that you can think of. It's essentially just a product of all the different numbers. It's something like, let's take a conservative estimate of how many planets could possibly have life. And then let's take another conservative estimate of how many of these planets actually do have life and how many of those instances have led to life that has evolved to such an extent that you can call it intelligent, and how many of those have the ability to communicate across distances, etc., etc. And even when you take the most conservative estimates of all of these, completely doubting the fact that this is common, you get an absolutely insane number that this equation spits out. It's like normally in the millions of civilizations that exist only in our galaxy. You're not even, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't even make sense to think about anything outside of our galaxy, honestly.
Yeah.
Because then the answer is, as far as I'm concerned, a given. But even when you take conservative estimates, you end up essentially with a complete certainty that there do exist these civilizations out there.
Yeah, I mean that comes back to the Fermi paradox. Where is
Indeed.
everybody?
If they are out there, if there are so many of them, then where the bloody hell are they?
Yes. Obviously, the Fermi paradox is brings in the question of the math says this, but since we've had no contact, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So, I was knowing that we were going to do this episode and that this would probably come up. I was lying awake at night thinking about it, and I've got my answer that it's completely original and totally unique, and no one's ever thought of it before.
All right, then let's hear it. Brace yourselves, listeners.
Obviously, that's sarcastic. A lot of people probably thought of this, but this is like I arrived at this independently.
Okay.
But so the first thing would be that, if life is out there, probably a very small portion of it is intelligent.
Okay.
Just, given the kind of cosmic chaos, you have asteroids and, you need an extremely stable environment to evolve over billions and billions and billions of years.
Right. Yes.
And then, so there's that part of it. So a very small number of, civilizations worth, I guess worth discovering.
Yeah.
And the second part is, it's just incredibly difficult to do it. Like that's
right.
So, if you have those two factors together, it becomes near impossible to find them.
Right. So you're taking conservative estimates and then also technological difficulty and saying that together it makes the chance that we would actually hear someone so small that that's the explanation for why we haven't heard them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely a possibility.
Now that I say it out loud, it's a little bit remedial, but
no, but it's not. I mean, you have to think about what you consider the remedial possibilities, because even just one of those arguments by itself is enough to explain it. Even if there are countless civilizations that are capable, but it's still really difficult, that's still an explanation. So as soon as you start combining the two different explanations together, it's the same results as the Drake equation. You get chances which are so small because of all of these different factors. I mean, the main factors I would say is rarity. As you say, is how common are these civilizations? I mean, are they all over the place and they're just unable or unwilling to contact? Or is it, I do tend to agree with the idea that intelligent life capable of sending a signal is probably quite rare, even with such astronomical numbers, so to say.
Yeah.
I do think the chance that you get to that point is low.
Yeah, you'd probably think that like how I arrived at this, I mean, I was just thinking, like, just if you just follow the maths, right? The probability of everything.
Yeah.
Like, most of alien life forms are going to be in the dinosaur phase, essentially, so to speak.
Exactly.
They're going to be, most of them are going to be very, very far behind us. And then even if they're beyond us, then maybe our technology is so insignificant or, incapable.
I mean, if you think about it as well, if they are actually at the same point that we are right now, if they are hundreds of light years away, or hundreds of thousands or millions of light years away, they will appear to us to still be in the dinosaur phase.
Yeah.
So even if all the civilizations out there are at the same stage that we are, or even a little bit ahead, we will not experience them that way.
Yeah. And if we're at the same stage and we're so far away, contact is only going to happen so far in our future.
So far in the future, exactly. Yeah. And I mean that brings into, I think you mentioned it as well, as fragility of civilization. Do civilizations, developing civilizations, actually last long enough to get to a point where they are not only capable but also willing to search for other intelligences?
I mean, that's the one for me, that it's so unlikely. Like, we're so like lucky in a sense to have made it this far.
Well, that brings into question is, I think they call it the Great Barrier, which is a barrier that civilizations have to cross in order to start making contact with other civilizations. And it's something that most civilizations do not get to. So the obvious answer to that is atomic weapons. A lot of people assumed that most civilizations blow themselves up before they ever get to a point where they are looking for other civilizations.
Right.
But it definitely, the scariest thing, I think, is it brings into question, but what if that's not the barrier? Because we always think, okay, we've made it past that. But what if the barrier is still ahead of us? What if we are not in the category? We think we are because we've sent a couple of messages out and we've recorded a few wow signals.
Yeah.
But what if that Great Barrier is still ahead of us?
Yeah. Scary thoughts in 2026.
Scary thoughts, exactly. Yeah. I mean, another favorite of mine is the dark forest theory.
Yes.
Which is the idea that everyone is being quiet because there is a predator out there of some sort. Oh, nice. Okay, the dark forest.
I'm holding up the Dark Forest novel.
Okay,
audio.
Very nice. Okay, very nice, very nice. And I mean, that is a lot of people who are against SETI, or at least against sending out messages. That is their explanation.
Why are you bringing them here?
Exactly. And maybe someone's heard our messages and they thought, what idiots. Jesus, do you guys not know what's out there?
Yeah.
Be quiet. Try and save yourselves.
Yeah. To go a little deeper in the Dark Forest theory, that's quite that's a little bit more of a straight sci-fi idea, I think. But there is a nice if you like, so the novel, The Dark Forest, I'm not going to get into like spoilers or anything, but it deals with a thing called cosmic sociology. So the interactions between interstellar civilizations, and if you're picturing the galaxy as a place of finite resources and extreme danger and hostile civilizations, like where is everyone? Well, everyone is hiding because that's the only way we're going to survive.
That's the only way that you actually do survive, is that the civilizations that do broadcast signals and do try and make contact, maybe that's the Great Barrier. Yeah, maybe that is exactly what makes you not survive.
Yeah.
I mean, I also thought, because when Dr. Arroway made contact with these aliens, and they sort of implied what sounds to be similar to the Federation of Planets, right? It seems like a whole lot of civilizations have come together and sort of formed an interstellar galactic community of sorts.
Yeah.
And it's quite a comforting thought, isn't it? To imagine that when we finally do make contact, that we will be invited into this.
The roads will already have been built. We don't
exactly.
Have to do anything.
Everything's there, and we will be invited in, and someone does know what's going on. They've been doing it for billions of years. Exactly. And it was the prime directive. That's why we didn't make contact. I think a far more terrifying thought is that maybe we're the first. I mean, that possibility exists,
Yes.
Or we are the last. Maybe, they mentioned we don't know who built these machines. They're these ancient civilizations. I remember reading an idea in a popular science book by Timothy Ferris called Coming of Age in the Milky Way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was his original idea or not, but he imagined that civilizations would leave beacons out in space containing like their entire history for civilizations to stumble upon in the future, sort of as a grave marker for, like, we were here, this is who we are. We can't make contact over the time and the space, but that is how you will remember us. Almost like In a Light for the Next Generation episode, where they leave like this time capsule behind to be discovered. And I'm quite a fan of that sort of theory, that when we make first contact, it won't necessarily be from a civilization which is still there.
Mm-hmm.
They might have disappeared somehow or moved on, or something has happened where they are no longer the people who sent the messages.
Yeah. I mean, so if in our lifetimes there's a field of study called space archaeology that forms, I'd like to join that, because that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it sounds right up my alley.
Going to a dig site on Mars.
Oh, come on, man. You and Picard, you have a great time.
Yeah. One thing we didn't do this episode, which is something that we spoke about, like we want to, part of the fun of doing this podcast would be like taking these scenarios and kind of applying them to now and, ourselves, and, seeing like, what would it actually be like if, this happened, if there were, Blade Runner robots running around or whatever.
Right.
But thinking about how this would function in 2026 is far too bleak and depressing for us to.
Absolutely. I mean, you need
Trump's world.
Absolutely. With the US on fire at the moment. I mean, can you just imagine?
So maybe we'll leave that to everyone else's imagination.
Yeah. But you see, I mean, the ending of the movie still, it kind of had that Star Trek hope to it. It did leave me with a sort of that hope for humanity, and it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes, probably my single favorite quote from Carl Sagan himself. And it is, "For all our failings, despite our limitations and fallibilities, we humans are capable of greatness." And I really think that was his idea of humanity, is he really thought that in the end we will pull through, just like Star Trek always promises that we will.
Yeah. I think that's a lovely note to end on.
Yeah, I think so.
Simply enough. Well, that was Contact. And next week, we are going to be watching, and I believe this is a first time viewing for you.
Yes, I think
we are going to be watching AI, Artificial Intelligence by Steven Spielberg.
Very nice.
If we're talking underrated classics, this is immediately where my mind goes. So it's going to be a very exciting episode.
What year is it from?
2001.
Okay.
Yes. So 25th anniversary, technically speaking.
Very nice. Yes.
I'll figure out release dates and all that when we record that one. But that's an exciting one. And, given the name, I'm sure we're going to be talking about things that are going on in the world and in science in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite relevant, I would say.
Yeah. So, tune in for that one next Monday.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.